We have to make sure that the politicians are held accountable.
Every administration had the ability to put a ban on asbestos.
When it comes to asbestos, it really is about power, money, and politics.
Well, the next speaker is Sheri Benson, a Member of Parliament from Canada. I want to tell you, Canada didn't used to get such applause at these meetings.
Yeah, that doesn't often happen. It doesn't happen in Parliament very much that people cheer me, but thank you. You know, I want to echo what all the other speakers have said. Thank you, Linda, so much for the opportunity and the invitation to be here. It really has been an amazing day. In some ways, I sort of feel like I got to leave. I got to get going. I got a lot to do. I've heard lots of great things to do and things not to do. So I really do stand up here on the shoulders of all the great activists and the people both in the scientific community and that I, in some ways, feel a little bit, I guess, sort of not the person to be up here, but as a Member of Parliament, I have a lot of privilege to be able to take issues forward, and I decided to do it for good instead of evil, and so here I am, and you get to listen to me. So I am honored to be here. I am a Member of Parliament. I represent the community of Saskatoon West, which is in the province of Saskatchewan. I know many of you have known Pat Martin, my colleague in the previous Parliament, as a Member of Parliament in Manitoba, and I know he's been a tireless crusader for a ban on asbestos, not just on behalf of our political party, the New Democrats, but really on behalf of all workers in Canada, their communities and their families, and I know you get a chance to hear him speak on Sunday. So Canada has been a world leader in asbestos for many decades for obviously all the wrong reasons. We've mined it, we've exported it, we continue to import it, use it in our buildings and in many other products, and for many years, people have been dying of asbestos-related diseases, and yet we did not stop. As policymakers, we failed to put safety at the top of our priority list above economic development and profit, and as others have said, it really is, Canada might be a nice country, but when it comes to asbestos, it really is about power, money, and politics. Even as the science made it clearer and clearer that asbestos was an industrial killer in Canada and of course around the world, it took us a very long time to come to terms with the truth. Our Department of Health has refused to change their assessment of the risk of asbestos exposure on their website for many years, and it was only in July 2015 that the government actually admitted and changed the website to say all forms of asbestos are harmful. So after climbing steadily over the past 2 decades, Canada's mesothelioma cancer rate, is, of course, we've heard, is now one of the highest in the world, and few, of course, in the medical community are surprised. Canada's dedication to the mining of asbestos and the Canadian government's track record for permitting its production and use in thousands of products laid the groundwork for exposing our citizens and citizens around the world to the toxic mineral. Asbestos exposure is the #1 cause of occupational death in Canada, and since 1996, asbestos-related disease has accounted for around 1/3 of workplace deaths. And as we know, because of the disease latency period of between 20 and 50 years, medical professionals expect that death rate will not level off for several more years. I think today we've heard some of the horrible facts and figures. 150,000 Canadian workers continue to be exposed to asbestos in their workplaces. More than 2,000 Canadians die each year from diseases and illnesses caused by asbestos. And as we heard this morning with the new research, we know that the impact, the estimated $1.7 billion per year, is spent on newly diagnosed cases of asbestos-related cancer. So in the Canadian Parliament, I am proud to represent Saskatchewan, as it is home to our country's very first public registry of buildings containing asbestos. And Howard Willems was a federal agriculture inspector, and after years of exposure to asbestos in the course of his work, Howard was diagnosed with mesothelioma. While battling this disease, Howard successfully lobbied for the introduction of legislation that requires all buildings in Saskatchewan containing asbestos to be reported in a public registry. Howard's Law, which is what it is called, came into effect April 2013. Howard passed away on November 8th, 2012, but of course his legacy lives on. Howard's stepson, Jesse, who's here today and who should really be up here talking about all this, continues to do the important advocacy work because, of course, our work isn't done as part of the Saskatchewan Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization. So I'm glad he's been able to be here this weekend. As a newly elected member of parliament from Saskatchewan, a social worker by trade, and my party's labor critic and housing critic, I wanted to help bring about a ban on asbestos. And so building on the work of Howard and Jesse and Pat, as well as the ongoing work of countless activists, people here in this country and other advocacy groups, unions, I introduced my first private member's bill, Bill C-292, which is to create a federal registry of all accidents, occupational disease, and other hazardous occurrences known by the employer to the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Labor. The minister would be required to maintain a registry containing all that information and to make that information available to employees, past, present, and potential for examination. So giving people the power to make choices about where they work and how dangerous a workplace is. In November 2016, I called for a comprehensive ban on asbestos because I was sick of hearing the Prime Minister talk about banning asbestos since he got elected in 2015, and the date kept moving and they kept talking about it, nothing happened. So I decided to lay the gauntlet down and say, put your money where your mouth is, Prime Minister. And so I introduced my private member's bill calling on the comprehensive ban on asbestos. And of course my colleagues in my party, the NDP, have been calling for that ban for quite a long time. So we were very happy in December 2016 when the Government of Canada announced it would be banning asbestos in Canada, including the import of products containing asbestos. So I want to congratulate Pat and Jesse, all the people that got that happening. The labour movement in Canada, of course, along with a lot of advocacy groups and activists, rejoiced, along with those, of course, who are suffering from the effects of exposure and those who have lost loved ones. But what does it mean to have a comprehensive ban? And so far, our government, we haven't heard much. We need to hear more. And this is what we are asking for. A truly comprehensive ban, it means creating a public pan-Canadian registry of cases of asbestos-related diseases. The registry should be created and maintained in collaboration with provincial, territorial, and First Nations governments. Canada needs to have a searchable, user-friendly database of public buildings that contain asbestos to protect workers and members of the public from preventable exposure. Harmonizing regulatory standards for asbestos disposal across Canada, the ways provinces, territories, and municipalities deal with waste disposal, including the disposal of asbestos, differs from across the country. And the federal government can assist in promoting the harmonization of strict regulatory standards for the disposal of asbestos across the country. And of course, providing transitional support for businesses and workers and communities affected by the ban on the use of import and export of asbestos and asbestos-containing products. Unfortunately, we are concerned because we do know that while the regulations haven't totally been rolled out, we do know that a company in Quebec already has asked for an exemption to be able to mine the tailings of the 2 asbestos mines in Quebec in order to extract magnesium. So there is a group in Quebec made up of national health unions, people from that community who are really asking the government not to allow that exemption. We know that that mine has received government funding from both the federal government and the provincial government, so we're a little concerned. So that's just a quick update. We have a lot more to do. I didn't want to come and rain on your parade. We do have regulations that are going to ban asbestos, but I think, as other speakers have said, you have to be vigilant. You got to learn from other jurisdictions. So I appreciated the comments from Australia about the federal. We've been taking notes, and I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and be among you today. Thank you.